All right, welcome everyone to this morning's meeting. We're starting a little bit late, but we're going to go ahead and get started as we do have quorum. Thank you everyone for your patience as we dealt with some technology issues this morning. As this is the first meeting of the year for Heritage Kingston, I'm going to kick it off with the election of officers. So I'm going to look around and see if there's anyone who wishes to nominate or volunteer themselves as chair. Yes,
Nominate Peter Gower for chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gower, would you accept that nomination? Yes, okay. Is there a seconder? I see Jan Demeter, thank you very much. Are there any other nominations for the role of chair? Seeing none, I'll close nominations and call the vote. All those in favor for Peter Gower as chair? And that is unanimous. All right, perfect. So we're going to go ahead and do the nominations for vice chair. Is there anyone who wishes to nominate someone else or volunteer for the role of vice chair? If you can just, yeah. Oh, there we go. Thank you.
I nominate Dawn Taylor to continue as vice chair, please.
Thank you very much. Mr. Taylor, would you accept? Yes, you do? Okay, perfect. Is there a seconder for that? I see Jane. Thank you very much. Are there any other nominations for the role of vice chair? Seeing none, we'll close nominations. All those in favor for Dawn Taylor? And that carries. Thank you very much. And with that, Mr. Chair, we'll turn it over to you when you're ready.
Good. Well, thank you very much. I won't read my long speech of thanks. So we have the election of officers. We now formally call the meeting to order. We look at the agenda which you have. Do we have any additions to that agenda? Sorry, I should also welcome Councillor Glenn to the committee. And welcome. It's an odd meeting today. You know, you've got a nice short one, so I hope. Approval of the agenda, done.
Could I suggest other business, an item for other business, mainly updates on where we are with this committee and the next committee and so forth?
Yeah, there are a couple, I think. So I'd hope that we will get an update on the future of this committee, what is happening with when the two committees come into existence, an update on Bill 23, and I believe that the round table should start early in the new year, and we'd like to know how that is going to be advertised or work, or if we've even got that far yet. So it's probably a question to Jennifer, who can answer all those sorts of, okay? Any other additions to the agenda? And seeing none then, those looking for a mover for the agenda as amended. Jane, seconded by Jennifer, thank you. Those in favor of the amended agenda, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's right, 7. I didn't vote, so it was 6. So you have an agenda. The confirmation of the minutes of November 16, which you should have received, and the only comment I will make at this point before we talk about it is I don't believe that Aidan was present at that meeting because he'd already left the city. His name was on the agenda as a presenter.
If I may, he was in attendance at that meeting. It was his last meeting. I believe it was the day before he left, Peter, or perhaps his last day.
Changes to that printed agenda? And seeing none, then looking for a mover for the agenda as printed with the exception of Aidan's name. Moved by Don, seconded by Jennifer. Further discussions? And seeing none, those in favour and those opposed, thank you, and that carries. So you now have minutes. Pecuniary interest. I'm not sure what pecuniary interest can be today, but anyway, we'll leave it there. And as ever, if you suddenly realize that you should have said something, please say it. I see no presentations, delegations, or briefings. And that takes us to cultural heritage update on the Kingston commemoration policy, new project requests, works in progress, and works complete in 2022. And I presume that is you, Jennifer? Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, we're just going to give brief verbal introductions to the reports today. This is the annual report the committee receives on the enactment of the commemorations policy. I think of interest perhaps to the committee, just a couple of items to draw your attention to. The first is that we did have a significant number of kind of what we consider that first tier of commemorative requests. You'll see there was quite a jump in the number if you were looking at the difference between 2021 and 2022. And a lot of that has to do with our new processes with illumination requests, proclamation requests, and I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the work of the EDI committee to help to encourage that the community is using those opportunities to celebrate a diversity of events and celebrations, et cetera, in our community more broadly. The other thing I did want to draw some attention to is the exhibit, where you see the larger, longer-term projects being tracked. And I'm very excited to share that last night Council did support moving forward with the placement of the National Wall of Remembrance in McDonald Park, an item that this committee was consulted on. And I don't know if it makes her in conflict, but Jen Demeter was certainly working on that project with the National Wall of Remembrance team. So very thankful for Council's support last night. And excited to see that project's been in play for some time, actually now moving forward quite successfully. The other item I did want to share just for the committee's awareness, again, something that the committee's always been very interested in, and appropriately so, is the return to the installation of plaques on designated properties, indicating that they are in fact designated, and this has been a long-standing kind of backlog of requests. And as we came into the new department in 2021, we made this sort of a bit of a targeted priority to shift who would be leading this work into our curatorial team. So we've had a very successful year in that we had the heritage planners working with our curators to actually resource and have mock-ups, fabrication details, et cetera, confirmed for these plaques. So I'm excited to share that we are now in production. So we had hoped that plaques would be installed by end of 2022, but we will be seeing that in 2023, and we're very excited about that. And we hope that moving forward, this becomes more an item of business as usual, where we will be able to approach new designations with the opportunity then to have plaques installed on their properties. So very excited by this. I know the committee cares deeply about those plaques, so I did want to share that good news with everyone. If there's other questions, we're happy to answer. Thanks.
Questions from committee members? Don Taylor?
I can't remember the policy on plaques. Who pays for them?
Thank you, and through you, we pay. That was one of the hanging issues last year, was that there was actually no budget allocated to this. And again, when the two departments were kind of brought together, the two teams for heritage with the city, one of the opportunities we had was the opportunity to kind of look at budget consolidation. And in so doing, we were able to use some of the commemorative plaque project money from the curatorial pot to help to support this initiative, and that is a sustainable use moving forward. So we're happy to say that getting a plaque, if you are in the schedule, we will get you your plaque. If you would like to advance yourself up the line, you may be able to do so, but you may have to cover the cost. We're looking at other cities. The city of Toronto, for example, has a very similar process. You can get your plaque if you wait when you get yours in your queue order. But if you're very insistent and would like it sooner, we may have an opportunity to allow you to essentially bump yourself up if you would like to pay for that expense yourself. Oh, and I'll take the opportunity to also say it took us some time to figure out how to affix plaques to heritage buildings. So there was quite a detailed discussion about the mechanism of attachment, particularly when we're looking at properties where we don't want to interrupt obviously historic facade. And so we are now working to understand how to best affix them, respectful of the masonry policy, but also looking at reversible, essentially glue that can be completely removed, residues removed, et cetera, et cetera. So just another aspect that we weren't anticipating, but was actually quite interesting to sort of work through. Thanks.
Other questions? Okay, I would just add on to that, yeah, when we've talked about this before, cost has always been a problem. And also, what material are you now using? Are they metal?
Hello? There we go. Thank you, and through you. Yeah, we are using, it's a light metal. It's not the original kind of cast ones that we were getting in the past. We were exploring that. There was bronze, yeah, in the past. Thank you, Ryan. The decision to move away from that is cost related, but also durability. We can actually get a much cleaner stamped design to be produced in these new alloyed metals. And so we're taking that approach, certainly. And then if they fall, and they're lighter, if they come off a property, it's easier to replace them, et cetera. But great point, Peter. Thank you.
And my memory was that there always were people who were more than willing to pay. And that may have changed, and my memory may be faulty, but I think it's probably worth really pushing that without saying you've got to, but at least if you want it faster. Good. Other questions on the plaques then? And anything else, Jennifer, you want to add to that report? So that brings us down to B, Policy Development and Implementation, Heritage Property Grant Tax Fund for 261271 and 269271 Queen, 357 Barry. Phil?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So the subject property is subject to a heritage easement between the city and the property itself. For properties subject to the city's initiated easement, a tax refund program has been established to provide relief for eligible works associated with maintenance that conserves or enhances character-defining features of the eligible property. Under this program, only one heritage tax refund can be paid out every 3 years. In this case, the subject property has undergone maintenance that maintains its heritage attributes, specifically the restoration/reinstatement of shutters at all 3 addresses, as well as the painting/scraping of wood frames, doors, soffits, fascia, eaves, and the front downspout for 269 to 271 Queen Street. These works have met the intent of the tax refund program and help maintain the property's heritage attributes for the long term, which is the intent of this program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions to that? I'm going to make a comment at this point. This is a property that had not come to the committee, is that right?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So at this point, they were able to do it under maintenance. And under maintenance, this is one of the things that does not require a heritage permit. However, we did process one just to be in line with the current policy at the staff level because it was simply just maintenance works. Thank you.
The reason I mention that is that Don and I were at Frontenac Heritage Foundation Awards the other night, and almost all of the awards went to properties which had not come to this committee. And we were in the awkward situation of people coming up and saying, hey, well done, thank you, Heritage Committee, for promoting this. And Don and I looked and said, never heard of this one before. So it's an interesting little... Yes, Jennifer.
Sorry, Peter, a little out of order, but are you suggesting, and I got the list of awards sent to me by Shirley, and I noted there was the Casa property with the windows, which was the one, and I sort of focused on that, but
If you look
I
at
feel
the
wrong for
others-
asking. I guess I'm asking, do you feel that these are properties that should have received a heritage permit, or were they doing work that was permissible under the maintenance provisions of the procedural bylaw? And we don't have to out anyone specifically in this meeting, but maybe we could follow up on that outside of the discussion, because that is a little odd.
I think it's worth following up on. I don't think there was anything illegal. It was just interesting. And of course, some of them are out of our jurisdiction because they're in the GAN and the township. But there were 3 or 4 in the city. Yeah, they were probably maintenance, but they were wonderful maintenance. I mean, I'm not objecting to any of them, but yeah, you're right. The one on Market Square was what had come here, but it might be worth just looking at out of interest. Okay, after that little bylaw we passed, did we vote? Yes, we voted on the tax refund. No, we didn't. So we have a motion here to approve that the Heritage Property Tax Refund application of $2,203 be approved since it meets the eligibilities of the bylaw. Looking for a mover as printed. Don Taylor, and seconded by Jennifer. Further discussion? And seeing none, those in favor? Those opposed? Thank you all, that is carried. Heritage assets, step business, working groups, motions, notices of motion, other business, some updates. Yeah, thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you, Mr. Taylor, for the opportunity. So I made some notes at the beginning to make sure I cover my items. I'm going to start just with the Bill 23 updates. So I think the easiest way to kind of capture the update on what's happening right now with Bill 23 is to refer the committee to the council report that was brought forward on December 6th. That was a comprehensive assessment of what the proposed changes of Bill 23 are and how they would impact various groups within the city. And that includes things like broad-scale development planning applications, the development charges that we have with the city, the relationship with the Conservation Authority, as well as the impacts of changes under the Ontario Heritage Act. In the report that we brought to council, we did indicate that one of the items that we were waiting for to better understand what this actually is going to look like from a workflow and response perspective is we needed to see the regulations that would enable and enact the changes in the bill. I can now share that those regs dropped on Friday of last week. And so we are in the process right now of unpacking what those regulations actually mean. So many of you may have seen and noted there's correspondence in today's agenda from the Frontenac Heritage Foundation, also sharing the letter that they have submitted. We submitted a very similar letter. Essentially every municipal heritage organization and support team, I think, in Ontario submitted a letter that looked very similar because we all understood the challenges that we were going to be facing. I think of note with the regulations, the thing we're very interested in understanding are some new clauses around how you can define a heritage conservation district. Which does require a certain percentage of the properties to meet specific, what we used to call the 906 criteria that have now been updated. We are also trying to understand and set a game plan, if you will, to bring back to council for how we will be addressing the slightly more than 300 listed properties that are currently on our register. And we're trying to understand what our timelines are. We had expected a 2-year timeline to move those properties to designation, or they would be removed from the register for a period of 5 years. So the regs are a little less clear at this point, I would say, to me at least. We do have legal services working with us to understand them. That work will continue. So all of this to say, if you'd like to see the kind of high-level impacts, I would suggest reading the December 6th council report. And we anticipate very early in the new year, we will be bringing a report back to council to understand the broader, now that we can unpack what this really does look like, which will then come back to Heritage Committee by way of information sharing about what, if any, new processes you may see from us. Thank you. So that's Bill 23. I'm happy to answer questions on it before I move on, if there's any.
Questions on Bill 23 update? As I say, we're probably on the way. When they come in on Monday, you can't expect a report on Wednesday, I don't think. So watch out for that, and if you can copy us anything after it's gone through council, that'd be great. Thank you. Okay.
All right, updates on the committee. So that's a great and timely question. I'm just looking at a report because I finished the report yesterday, which will be the report to council. It will be hopefully moving to council on January 17th, I believe is the council meeting. This is the report that would enact the necessary procedural bylaw changes and the change to the committee bylaw. So council has approved the mandates and the intent. and they directed staff then to make the procedural changes to the bylaws, which have to go back to council then for approval and enactment. So the timing on that is that council will receive that report hopefully January 17. Council will hopefully support the bylaws that enact what they've previously approved, which would then set us in motion. And the motion is this. The clerks are actually beginning recruitment into January for these two new committees. That is based on council's previous approval of the mandates and the understood intent. So they will be beginning that recruitment. That recruitment closes, I believe, on or around January 23rd. I'm looking at Mr. O'Shea over here in the corner, who I believe the 20th, okay. So the recruitment period will close. It's all in motion right now. The recruitment period is expected to close January 20th. Those applicants will then be considered at the nomination committee meeting, which is very early in February. And then following that, the nomination committee's selections would go up to council for ratification at the February 21st meeting of council. That would then give us our new slate of members for the two committees. Those committees would then meet thereafter, and we're anticipating the Properties Committee would be meeting in March of the year. There are statutory timelines we're all very familiar with that we need to have a committee in place. And the Programming Committee we're anticipating will meet in the month of April, because it is required to meet quarterly or at the call of its chair. And we decided it would be best to sort of start in a clean quarter as opposed to having a meeting in March and then following quickly with one in April, though we may choose to call one in March if necessary for orientation purposes. So that is the intent right now regarding the committee timelines to enactment. This committee will continue to function until of March 1. That is what the bylaws would essentially indicate, is that those new committee structures take effect on March 1st. And then obviously this committee would transform into that new committee through that new recruitment process. To the roundtable question. Peter, we've been talking about this with the team about how and when to schedule these meetings. The intent right now we're thinking is we would have them likely weekly to correspond with what we already have as standing heritage planning meetings, internal meetings, and we would essentially add in an opportunity either at the front or the end of that meeting for this aspect of the roundtable. That would be published essentially on the HRC website, I'm anticipating, so that it would be understood that there is this kind of standing opportunity for people to come and participate in that roundtable experience. And we will be working with the communications team to make sure that past applicants, property owners, are also made aware of this new opportunity and these new processes. And we're also looking forward to sharing a new copy of the Heritage Digest, something that we started last year, and we do have opportunity there through a mailing list to correspond with applicants and property owners. So we're looking forward to that. A lot of change coming quickly at the same time as Bill 23, but we're really excited for it, as I think everyone is, for the improvements to come. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions on, obviously ongoing, that gives us some idea of where we're heading? Emergency approvals? No emergency approvals. Motions? There are none. Notices of motion? Oh, we did other business, that's right. I was thinking it was up there. So you have the letter from the Frontenac Heritage Foundation summarizing their concerns with Bill 23. You have two pieces from the Ontario Heritage Trust, Heritage Matters and Supporting Ontario's Heritage. And I don't think I have anything else, except to remind you that the next meeting is January 18. Nobody's waving, nobody's going. Fantastic. This is a new record in your books. What's the time? Get it? You must have the time. 10:01. 10:01. And we didn't start at 9:30 either. That was very good. Motion for adjournment. Jane, you move first. Done. Thank you. In favor? Opposed? Oh, Diana. The YouTube is slow, Councillor Oosterhoff. That's why you still had your hand up at the wrong time. Good. Have a good season. See you all back in January. Thank you indeed.